Hey guys, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build a very simple Shopify app to change the status of an order using Remix. So let's get started. So here I have the official Shopify's documentation to build an app. I will leave a link for this in the description, so just head over to it and then go to the requirements section. So we do need to build a partner's account, and we also need all of these packages such as Node.js, NPM, Git, etc. So just go ahead and install all of these. After you've done that, just head over to Visual Studio Code or whatever IDE you'll be using for this project. Create a new folder and then just head over to the terminal and then copy and paste this command. Then just press enter. After you do that, you'll be given a bunch of prompts. So the name for your project, just choose whatever name that you like. And then you have to choose a framework. Just choose Remix. We're going to be using Remix for this project. And then finally, language, JavaScript. However, if you want, you can also use TypeScript. There's nothing wrong with that. And then once you've done that, it's going to take a while to install all of the required dependencies. I've already done that, so it's going to look something like this. You're going to get a folder folder with the same name that you specified, and then this is what the file structure is going to look like. So what we need to do is we need to head over to app, routes, and we need to build, make a new file. I'm just going to call it app.ch.jsx. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is we need to define the component function. So it's going to be export function, default function, and we're gonna call it ch, which is the same as the name of this file. And then we also need a loader function. So in Remix we have the concept of loaders and action. So the loader is supposed to just handle all of the GET requests. So it's going to be an async function. And we also need to pass in a request. It takes a request as a parameter. Okay, something went wrong here. It's export const loader. It's an async function which takes a request as a parameter. And we need to first of all authenticate the session. So we're going to do it like this. It's going to return us back a session object and an admin object, and we need to use the authenticate function from the Shopify server. So we're going to do it like this. So authenticate.admin, we need to pass in the request. Okay, so once we're done with the authentication, we can now go ahead and get the order ID from the URL. So the ID is going to be a parameter in the URL, and we need to extract that. So we're going to do it like this. We're going to do const URL, create a new URL object based on the current URL, request.url. And then we can just go ahead and use the url.search params and get the ID parameter. This is going to give us the ID, the order ID from the URL. So once we have done that, we can now go ahead and use the admin API to get the fulfillment data about an order, which is going to be needed in order to be able to change and display the current order status, the shipment status of the order. So we can do that by we can define a variable called data, and we can use a wait keyword because this is a asynchronous function. And then we can just go ahead and call admin.rest. We're going to be using the REST API. Resources.fulfillment dot all, and we need to pass in the session, which is going to be the session which we defined here, and we also need to pass in the order ID, which is going to be the same as this ID here. Okay, so after we have gotten this data, we can just go ahead and return it as a JSON, and it's going to be from remix run node, and we need to just pass in data as an argument. And then after we've defined the loader, we can just go ahead and start working on our component function. We're going to return a page tag, which is going to be the top level tag. We can just pass in a title as well for this. We call it change order status. Okay, and then after that we can just define the layout tag, and then layout.section, and within that we can define a vertical stack. So the vertical stack is basically going to give us, it's literally the name itself is a vertical stack. We can define a gap of, let's say, 500. So all of the elements within the stack are going to be spaced. They're going to have some amount of spacing between them, which is basically this value over here. Okay, so within the vertical stack, we can define, let's say, a card component, and within the card, we can first of all, let's say, show the title. The title of this card is going to be okay. So in the first card, we're going to show the current order status. So I'm going to use the text component. I'm just going to say current order status. We can also give this a variant of, let's say, title or heading VG. That's actually lowercase h. Okay, and as, let's say, as an h2. Okay, so this is going to be our heading. Then we're going to have just plain text, which is the same as a paragraph, just like a paragraph tag. And then we're going to just display. We need in this component, we need to first of all access the the data which was returned by the REST API call. So to do that, we need to define a variable. I'm going to call it data, and we need to use the hook use loader data, which is basically going to take get this data which we return from here, and we're going to have access to it within this component here. Okay, so here we need to be able to access data.shipment status. I believe this is the right. If you're in order to see what all attributes does this have, you can just head over to Shopify REST admin API fulfillment and just head over to we're doing this one, retrieves fulfillments associated with an order. So this is going to give us back all of this. So you can see it has shipment status, an attribute for shipment status, which is what we need in order to show what the current order status is. Okay, so we have that. And followed, we can create another card, which is basically going to give us the capability of changing order status to, let's say, what all possible status can we assign to the shipment status. In order to look at that, we need to just head over to fulfillment resource, head over to shipment status. These are all of the possible values it can take on. So we can just create a card. So let's say to change the status of the order to in transit. So I'm just going to call this in transit. And then we can say change order status to in transit. And then we can just go ahead and create a form tag, a form element, which is from Polaris. Okay, and what else? We need to define a button component, and the button is going to be of type submit, and we also need to post this form. What we're going to do here is we're basically going to pass in we're going to pass the details about the we're going to need to pass in the fulfillment ID, the order ID, and the status that we want to change our order to. So let me show you what that means. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create a fulfillment event. So Shopify create fulfillment event. We're trying to create a fulfillment event, and in order to do that, we need access to the order ID, fulfillment ID, and the status which we want to change our order to. Okay, so how are we going to handle that? So here inside of this form, we're going to pass in all of these things as hidden values. So I'm going to define an input is going to be of type hidden, and we need to pass in the name. The name is going to be, let's say, OID, the order ID. The value is going to be data dot order ID, I believe. Let's just confirm that. Does it have no does it return back the order ID as order underscore ID? Yeah, it does. So that is correct. So that's how we're going to access it here. We're going to pass in this, and we're going to also have to pass in the fulfillment ID, type hidden. Need to close that. I need to put an equals to sign. Okay, and we need to give it a name. I'm going to call it FID, for fulfillment ID, and we're going to pass in a value. It's going to be data dot ID, because the ID here is the fulfillment ID. Okay, and we also need to pass in, I'm just going to copy this. We need to pass in the status. No, it's all going to be hidden as well, and we need to give this a name of status, and we need to just pass in literally whatever this card is, the name of this card in transit. So we can't actually just pass in transit. We need to make sure it's exactly the same as this. It has to be exactly the same as this Just copy that. We can literally just hard code this here, because this card is for changing the status of the order to in transit. So if they click on this card, that is for changing the status of the order to in transit. So as soon as they click on this button, it's going to submit all of this data. And then once we have all this data, we can just create a action function here. So as I said before, in Remix, we have the concept of loaders and actions. So action is supposed to handle the post request, because we're going to post the form, right? We need to be able to get access to all of that data and create a fulfillment event in order to change the status of the order. So we're going to, again, first of all, authenticate. After we're done with the authentication, we can just go ahead and copy all of this. Go ahead and copy all of this. But we need to get access to, we don't want to hard code these values here. We need to get them from this form. So the way to do that is we're gonna say const body is gonna be form data dot let me just refer to how it's done. Request dot form data. Request dot form form data. Let me just confirm that is correct. This is going to give us back all of the form data from here. So we're going to get the form data. Await, it's going to be await request of form data. Okay, my bad, I misspelled it. Await request of form data. Then what we can do is just do const. We can say const. The OID is going to be body dot get ID, and because we specified as ID, or did we specify as order ID? Always is OID, so it has to be exactly the same as whatever name you gave it in the form. Okay, and then that's for the order ID. We can also extract the fulfillment ID, which is going to be FID, and we also need to get the status. So status of the order is going to be the status, which is the same name that we gave it here to this input field, status. Okay, so we have that. We have all of these. We can just replace these values here, these hard-coded values. Instead of just hard-coding them, we can just pass in these variables. Fulfillment ID is going to be FID, and status is going to be status. And finally, after we're done with everything, we can just return null. Otherwise, it won't work. You have to return something inside of action and loader. And then once we're done with that, we can create more cards to deal with more different types of order status. So here we can, let's say, change it to delivered, and it's gonna be we're not supposed to use a semicolon here, so I think that's a mistake. Remove that, and then change this to delivered. The value of the status is now going to be delivered. Change it to delivered. And another thing I want to point out is that once we actually change the status through this function here to create a fulfillment event, it's going to automatically send a notification to the customer that the order has been fulfilled or delivered, or whatever status that you changed it to. Alright, so we're not yet ready to actually run this. There's a couple of things we need to do in order to make this work. So firstly, we need to actually import all of these Polaris components which we're using here, such as card, text, etc. So I already have a file where I imported all of these. I'm just going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it here and remove that. Yeah, so basically the idea is you have to import all of these, otherwise you'll get an error. And another thing, we're actually going to be using block stacks. So for me, for some reason, vertical stack does not work. So we have block stack, which is an alternate. So I'm just going to replace vertical stack here with a block stack, and you need to change that down here. Block stack. And I also need we also need to enclose all of these card components inside of block stacks as well. So that what's that gonna do is going to make sure that everything inside of the card is equally spaced. It has to be formatted well. So I'm just gonna do block stack with a gap of 500 for each one of those, for each one of these cards. Alright, so we're done. And now what we need to do is we need to actually change the access scopes for this app. So what an access scope does is that it gives you permission to do certain things. For example, read an order, write an order. So these are the access scopes which we need in order to make our app work, because we need to read our fulfillment data, and we need to create a fulfillment event for which we need read orders and write orders access scope. So just go over to this file, shopify.app.toml, and add in these access scopes. And then you need to actually push these changes. You need to run a specific command, which is, let me just load it up. Yeah, this command right here, npm run Shopify app config push. You just press enter. It's going to ask you to confirm whether you want to make these changes. Just press enter. And then once you do that, let's head over to Shopify partners, go to apps, and then select the app which you're using. For me, it's this one. And you just head over to API access, and you just check whether the access scope changed to these right here, configured scopes. And after you've done that, we also need to enable access to protected customer data. The reason why we need this is because we need to access the order information. And you just head over to, I've already done this, but you need to just go to select and select all the reasons why you want to use this protected customer data. So in our case, we need to be able to manage the store and enable the app's functionality, because we need to be able to read the order data in order to make this app work. And then you just go over here and save the changes. Then after that, you should be able to access the customer data without any issues. Alright, so I did a quick little run before recording this, and I found out a few issues, so I'm going to be addressing those. So here in the action, we're actually supposed to put admin after session. So the order is supposed to be like this, and we're actually supposed to use the await keyword here. And this is supposed to be admin.rest dot resources, and here is the same thing. We're supposed to put admin first, then session, and we're supposed to use the await keyword, and this is supposed to be an integer, so we're going to use the parseInt method to convert this to an integer. And what else? Here, we can't actually directly use data.shipment status. It's going to throw an error because what data gives us back is an object which has an attribute, which has an array as an attribute of one element. So the first element from that array is going to be all of the fulfillment data which we need, and that is going to have the attribute of shipment status. So we're going to just make this same change. I'm going to just copy this. I'm just going to copy this and we're going to paste it here. And here as well. Same thing for the other card. Alright, now what we're supposed to do, if you remember in the beginning of the video, I said that we're going to get using the loader, we're going to get the ID parameter from the URL. So how that's going to happen is we're going to go to this order page, and when we click on any order, when we go to the order details page, and when we click on more actions, we're actually going to be able to see a extension such as this one, and we click on it, it's gonna basically give us the order ID as a parameter. So how do we do this? Let's go over to Shopify partners and go to all apps. Go to your apps page, all apps, and then select the app which we're working with. So for me it's 2.v2. I'm going to select that, and then just head over to extensions and then click on create extension. Click on admin links and give it a name. So just, for example, change order status. I'm going to call it that. Click on save. Then you're going to give it a name which is going to appear as a label inside of more actions. So we're going to just call it change order status, and we're going to show this in the order details page. And we also need to provide a link which is going to direct us to. So I'm just going to click on delete for now because I already have made the extension before. I'm just going to show you what the link is going to look like. So the link is going to look like this. You're going to do http dot semicolon and // You're going to give the name of your app, which is going to be 2.v2 in my case, the name of your app folder, and then followed by app/ch, which is the name of the page which we made. It's called ch. Okay, then just click on save. Then what you're supposed to do is just head over to your orders page, click on any order, and once you're at the order details page, click on more actions and click on change order status, which is the extension which we just made. And then let's have a look. What is this showing? Oh, we're not actually running the app. We're supposed to run the app. So npm run dev. That's not going to work because we're not running our app yet. So let's head back to the orders page and wait for this to load up. Alright, so once the app has been loaded, we can go back, go to your orders page, and then click on any order. Click on more actions, go to change order status. Alright, so we can see that we have the order status, the change order status page. The current order status is in transit. So if you try to click on these buttons, it's not going to actually change because we need to actually convert the order ID and the fulfillment ID to an integer using the parseInt method. It's not going to work if you don't do that. And I think I made a mistake here previously. When you're passing the order ID, you're supposed to pass in the data, date of zero, order ID, and fulfillment ID. For FID, you're supposed to pass in the ID, just the ID. And yeah, once you've made those changes, it should work perfectly. If I click on submit for delivered, it's supposed to change the status of the order to delivered. Yes, we can see that happened, and back to in transit. Yeah, it works. So it works perfectly. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below.